Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. We meet again. And inshallah, we continue with our Surah zhariyat. We will start off with the intentions for seeking knowledge and teaching. I intend to seek knowledge and to teach to benefit myself and to benefit others, to remind myself and to remind others, to profit myself and to profit others, to urge adherence to the book of Allah and the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to invite to guidance and to guide to that which is good, seeking the face of Allah, His pleasure, His closeness, and His reward, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let's continue on with the Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم نور بالقرآن بصري واشرح به صدري وأطلق به لساني واستعمل به بدني وقوي به جناني وأسرع به فهمي بحولك وقوتك فإنه لا حول ولا قوة إلا بك يا أرحم الراحمين والصلاة على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين بفضل سبحانك ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي الحمد لله. Continuing in Surah Al-Dhariyat. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We did verses 20 to 23 in the last lesson. In the earth, there are signs for those who are sure. So Allah reminds us, unless you are sure of the existence of Allah, you're sure of the message of Allah, you are sure of the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you will see the signs. In our own souls too, how is it we can't see? So it's obvious that there is a God who created us, our souls, ourselves, our body, our minds, our emotions, all this we can tell that there is God. In the heavens is our sustenance and what we are threatened with. Sky, heaven is a sky here. Shouldn't put a heaven as the sky. In the sky is our sustenance. So we did discuss about the sustenance from the sky, right, which comes in the form of water, the various electromagnetic rays, and then of course the gravity and things like that. And what we are threatened with here, we are reminded of the last day of the world. We are reminded of resurrection. We are reminded of hereafter. All these are present in the sky actually, right? In the sky, we are told also in Surah in Surah Al-Inshiqaq, right, where the sky will break asunder. So these are threats from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Plus we talk about the wind and the moon, and the wind and the clouds and things like that, which have been punishment for people of old. But the Rabb of the heavens and the earth, it is as true as us speaking. Allah swears by himself as the Rabb of the heavens and the earth that this threat, right, is true as us speaking. That means there is no doubt about it. In fact, that we can speak, right? It is true that we are able to speak, then it is true that the punishment will ascend. I continue. Faragha, then he slipped away. So far is then, ragha is past tense, fi'il madi, there's a he embedded in it. He slipped. Right, a root word could be raw. Fa'aujasa, fa is then, aujasa, right? Root word is wajasa, apprehensive. This is fa'il madi, again past tense, and the he embedded in it. Alright, so these are the two words that we have. Faragha. The other words are more familiar words, so we do not identify them. We do not highlight them. These are words which are rather unfamiliar to us. Fa'aujasa. Then he was apprehensive. Hal ataka hadithu dayfi Ibrahim al-mukramin. Hal, did. Ataka. Ata is to came. Past tense again here. Atu zaka. Atu is an instruction, but ata is to one person. I mean, talking about the hadith. The hadith coming. So the hadith you can see is rafa here. So it's talking about the coming of the hadith. Hadith is the story, narration. Ataka, ka is you. Come, you referring to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hadithu daifi, story of the guest. Daif is guest. So we can see this is mudaf ilai structure because hadith doesn't have a tanween here. Hadithul daifi, and daifi is in its jar state, but daifi also doesn't have a tanween, which shows that this is another of that. So the story of the guest of Ibrahim, but Ibrahim is not is fixed at R or O. It doesn't go into E, kasrah. So it's supposed to be kasrah here. It's supposed to be a jar here because it is an off structure here. Then we have al-mukarramin. So this is the last of the off structures. So it's a story of the honored guest of Ibrahim. Honored, and it is known because it is in its jar state. If you talk about honored guests of Ibrahim, all right, Ibrahim honored guests. So honored guests, so it's referring to the guests here. We can see the fee here is in jar, so that is why you have liya known here as in jar state. And the last letter of the mudaf ilai is of course as an al. Hal ataka hadithu dayfi Ibrahim al-mukarramin. So we have the story of a question by Rasulullah SAW in the first place was questioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Have the story of the guests of Ibrahim, of the honored guests of Ibrahim come to you? So has it come to you, the story of the honored guests of Ibrahim? All right, we know that Mukarramin cannot be referring to Ibrahim because Mukarramin is plural. So it has to be Daif. Daif is plural, guests. All right, it is not necessary that the address Hal Ataka be directed at the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So here is an opinion from a scholar that is not necessary to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. In fact, it is more probable that it be directed to the rejectors which are being conclusively conveyed the truth in this surah. So here he's saying that the ka refers is an individualized reference to the rejectors. And so Rasulullah SAW is saying it, and they are listening it, and they get it individually, whether they have heard the story of the guest of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the honored guest of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So he says that because his opinion is that it refers, the ka is referring to the rejectors because the surah is aimed at them. As before, we can see that in the previous verses that we did, the 4 verses that we did, Allah asked people to look at to realize that there are enough signs if you are sure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sure of the message of Allah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Signs in the sky, signs in the earth, signs in yourself, and also the fact that the sky provides rizki, and also is the sky provides what they were promised, I mean, of the punishment that they will receive if they disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his prophet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All right, so here the story now refers to them again. All right, did you ever hear the story of the guests of Ibrahim? When the group is addressed in the singular, the purpose is to focus the attention of each member of the group individually. So by using the term ka, everyone feels that, every single one feels that it is addressed to him. So he sort of still sit up and wonder what's happening here. All right, so that's how they say it. The interrogative style adopted in itself shows that what is being said is of importance. Everyone should intently hear it out. So a question in itself, right, makes it clear that you need to pay attention. Hal ataka hadithu dayfi Ibrahim al-Mukarramin. So of course, with Ibrahim alayhi salam, whom the Quraysh revere as their forefather, because he was the father of Ismail alayhi salam, from whom most of them, especially the Quraysh, descended from. So they do take the message of Ibrahim. I mean, the fact that Ibrahim alayhi salam brought the monastic Haji, they do follow after him in some sense, but along the way they have corrupted his teachings and the teachings of Ismail radiallahu anh, Ismail alayhi salam. The word daif is used for both singular and plural entities. So this is about the grammar. So daif can be singular, daif can be plural, but the fact that we see a plural here, we know that is plural. And it's ya nun mukarramin, which tells us that the guest of Ibrahim is 3 or more, right? Not 1 person, not 2 person, but 3 or more. Thus here it is qualified by the adjective mukarramin. Mukarramin from the word karim, honored. Karim is honored, generous, right? But here we see it as honored. Honored. Why are they honored? Because Allah honors them. They were the angels of Allah. Nabi Ibrahim also honored them. Honored because they are angels. Angels are honored creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's many ways at looking at the word mukarramin here. This word al-mukarramin refers to the hospitality, warmth, kindness shown by Ibrahim alayhi salam, as well as the elaborate arrangements made by him in dealing with his guests. All right. In hosting his guests, I wouldn't like the word dealing. Dealing doesn't sound so positive, actually. All right. Anyway, this is an opinion about the word mukramin. As mentioned just now, there are other opinions also in which the mukramin refers to the honor that the angels were honored. So, and this is about Nabi Ibrahim himself honoring the angels. And Nabi Ibrahim, as we know in many of the stories of Nabi Ibrahim, he has attended, he is a well mannered person who knows, who honors his guests with great hospitality. This attitude of Ibrahim salam bears witness to the fact that the decency and civility of the guests was reflected from their faces. Right, again, right, it seems that he is honoring them because he sees them as honorable people, honorable ones from their faces. It did not needed to be divulged. That means this, you can see through people sometimes. You can sort of see the nature of people by the way they dress, by the way they come, and you honor them. So this is another way of looking at it. Thus, in spite of not knowing them, Ibrahim salam set about to welcome them in a befitting manner and with great urgency prepared what best he could have to serve them as a meal. إِذْ دَخَلُوا, when they entered, here we have waw alif there to show there are 3 or more of them. Many narrations say it's 3, and they even specify the angels. Right? In إِذْ دَخَلُوا, when they entered, alayhi, on him, فَقَالُوا, then they said, All right. Faqalu. Then they said. Fa is then. Qalu is they said. Then they said. Salaman. All right. So we see here them saying salaman. Salaman is nasab. So they say salaman. Qala, he said, this is Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, salamun. He said salamun. He didn't say salaman. Qawmun munkarun, a strange people. All right, qawm is people, munkarun from the word nakira. Nakira is unknown, right? Non-specific. So you don't know them, munkarun. And wow, note again to show that they are plural. They are plural. And of course, this is an rafa state because mun here also shows a rafa, right? Descriptive. So both must be of the same structure. إذ دخلوا عليه فقالوا سلاما قال سلام قوم منكرون. All right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the moment when they entered onto Ibrahim. That means they came into the house of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And they said, Salaman. Salaman is a beautiful address to the inhabitants of the house, and to say peace. That means we come with peace. We are not here to have any difficult to create any difficulty on you. Peace. إذ دخلوا عليه فقالوا سلاما. These guests paid their salutations to Ibrahim alayhi salam the way righteous people do. These salutations, to some extent, dispelled them as strangers before Ibrahim alayhi salam, and he was assured that they are decent and virtuous guests. Right, according to this message here, somehow the Salaman, he saw that they were good people. Right, by the way they enter, their manners are good, they give salams. Right, they're decent and virtuous guests. Qala salamun qawmun mukramun. He said, peace. People, unknown people or strangers. Strange people sounds a bit weird. I don't know what strange. You say munkarun, sorry. Qala salamun qawmun munkarun. But unknown people would be okay, right? I don't know you. Who are you? But he used salamun instead of replying to them salaman. This is salaman. He responded with salamun. Qala salamun qawmun mukramun. So the friend of Allah chose a better reply in return for their greeting, implementing Allah's command. Reciprocating the greeting with the term salamun is stronger than the greeting using the term salaman. Now, why is that so? Because salamun is rafa. Rafa terms are considered as terms of a higher degree than salaman, which is nasab and not so of a higher degree. Salamun shows honor of the person, giving them, treating them as a subject in your conversation, in your life. Salaman is the object of your peace. So here we see a use of the salam in two different grammatical terms, grammatical structure. The three angels, Jibril, Mikael, and Israfil, came to Ibrahim alayhi salam in the image of handsome, young, wonderfully graceful men. All right, so this is mentioned by some scholars, but it was not mentioned by the Quran itself. Allah just says, guess, but Allah mentioned they are honored. So here, and then Allah mentioned the exchange in conversation between Nabi Ibrahim and the angels. Despite returning the salam, the question of their identity, their origin, and purpose of visit did arise in his mind, for to him they were complete strangers. definitely he has never seen them before. The word qawmun mukramun, a people strange or people unknown, were uttered in his heart and not by his tongue. Okay, again, this is another opinion of another scholar who felt that it's not proper for you to give salam and sit and express your worry in some sense, or the fact that you don't know them, unknown people. The reason that this question arose in his mind must have been that in the first place, there were very few righteous people in that area, and whoever such people were, they were associated and linked closely to Ibrahim alayhi salam. All right. First thing, how to know they were righteous is the way they come, very polite, giving salam. Second thing is that he knows that he doesn't know them because the righteous and good people around are all linked to him or all known by him, because he is a prophet. He was a prophet at the time who was in charge of calling people to the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he knew all of them. So definitely this person here is these three people, definitely they are strangers. Okay. Strangers, a people strange is different from a people who are strangers. Strange doesn't sound so good. Anyway. For this reason, he expressed wonder that in this age, when decent people are found few and far between, where did such civilized and upright people come from? So he did mention that, a people unknown, a people strangers, right? Some actually say he did mention it to them. I don't know who you are, and it's quite common for us to say that actually, salamun, salamun. But who are you? That kind of question, eh? But here, straight away, a term is used, a people strange. It describes Ibrahim's guests as honored, either because they are so in Allah's sight, or because of how Ibrahim paid honor to them. So that one we had explained before, or mentioned before. Not that just as the word qala denotes that it is said by the tongue, it also denotes that it is said in the heart. So this particular scholar is saying that he says the word qala does not only mean that it is verbalized, because he felt that to verbalize, you're a strange people, it's not a very polite thing to do to your guest. But to say you are unknown might not be so bad, because I don't really know you. Examples of this usage is found in classical Arabic poetry as well as in the Quran itself. So he substantiates his claim by saying that such use is quite has been used. Such forms of references have been used in Arabic poetry as well as in the Quran to indicate that the qala was not verbalized. He responded to the salutations of the guests by the tongue. However, what is stated here is in this part of the verse was said by him in his heart, because this is something which is not appropriate for uttering by the tongue. So we've mentioned that already. Yeah? All right. So let's go on. Faragha ila ahlihi faja'a bi'ajlin samin. Faragha, we had this word, he turned secretly ila ahlihi, to his family. Ila is to, ahli is family, he is his. Faja'a, then he brought, there's a fa, that fa is then he brought, ja'a, he came with, came also can, but brought, he came, and if it came there, doesn't matter, actually, that he brought. Then he came with a fat calf, bi'ajlin samin, with a fat calf. Ajal has two meanings. So ajal actually has another one meaning of ajilihi wa ajili, to bring forth. Bi'ajal, but ajal also has a meaning of calf. Samin is fat. B is huruf jar, so ajal is in its jar state, and of course samin in its jar to describe the calf. Faragha ila ahlihi faja'a bi'ajlin samin. Then he turned aside to his family secretly and brought a fat calf. Faragha. The word faragha is a past tense. Right? It's a story here. So he turned. So after the exchanges of salam, He turned to his family, and then he brought to the people, to the guests, a fat calf. Ghaura. The word ghaura means to do something secretly and furtively. That means without the knowledge of the guest. He must have, because if the guest was to know, the guest, sometimes, we do as guests, we do, so no, don't trouble yourself. We are in a hurry. We have got a mission here, so don't. But he did it so secretly that the guest could not, refuse, or could not stop him from doing so. As soon as Ibrahim saw his guests, he furtively crept to his family so that he could arrange something to eat for them. This was done furtively by him, so that it would be not be a burden on the guests. They would not have to say no, right? So that they don't feel as if they are troubling him. So he need to do it discreetly, actually. This is what hosts who are noble and generous do. They do not question, they do not make it appear as if the guest is a trouble. They would be honored to serve the guests in the best of ways. They are hospitable to their guests such that the guests do not feel uncomfortable. Faragha ila ahlihi faja'a bi'ijlin samin. The word ijlin samin expresses the generosity of Ibrahim alayhi salam. He slaughtered a whole calf for his guests. And also a calf, for those who are familiar, the calf is not normally more expensive than the cow, because the calf is still young, and also the meat is tender, much more tender than the meat of the cow. And to slaughter a calf shows that he is not worried about losing an animal which is still so young. This is his animal. He has his animals. All right, so Ejlin Samin. So it shows honoring the guests. This does not necessarily imply that he presented all the meat before them. At times, a part is signified by stating the whole. So we can see our Mufassirin somehow it depends on where they come from, and to serve a whole calf might not be suitable in various in some cultures, but in the Arabic world, I would say from experiences, it's quite a common thing for them to put a calf on a plate. All right, but doesn't matter. Basically, he served the young animal. Just as this style exists in every language, it also exists in Arabic. Okay. Faqarrabahu. Fa is then qarraba from the word qarib. Qarib means close. Qarraba, the shadda there means to cause to become close. Who? It. Faqarrabahu. And he brought it close. Right? Ilayhim, to them. All right. Of course, the word qarraba, to say brought, the word it just means to make it close. All right, so we have used the word brought it close. Ilahim, to them. Qala, he said, Allah, why not? It's a question, la is not. Allah, ta'kulun, why not you all eat? This you all here, ta and waw nun. Akala is to eat. So he brought it near them and he said, what will you not eat? All right, a bit more drastic. Why not you eat? It's much more pleasant. But then what is shows surprise? Allahu alam bisawab. And there are various opinions as different ways of presenting the translation. فَقَرَّبَهُ إِلَيْهِ. He brought the food to his guests quickly while they were unaware that it was being prepared for them. He did not first mention this favor to them by saying, we will make food for you. Right? Some people, sometimes we do ask, is it okay, may I serve you something? And they say, no, trouble yourself. So you prefer not to do that, because then that person, then they will be rejected. So they feel uncomfortable that they are actually troubling us. So it's just be prepared without informing them. As part of hospitality also. Rather, he discreetly had it prepared and placed before them. He prepared the best kind of food he had, a young, fat, roasted calf. He did not place the food far from them and invite them to come close to it. He, in fact, puts it close to them, right? Rather, he placed it close to them and refrained from ordering them to eat. So he put it very close to them, understood that this is for you, right? This is hospitality. Actually, buffet style is not really good hospitality because you ask the guests to serve themselves. But this is a common thing in our society, so it's not seen as being rude. Initially, maybe when it started off weddings with buffets, some older ones are not very happy that they have to serve themselves, being guests of the function. Instead, he invited them using a kind and subtle invitation. Why not? Why don't you? Why not you eat? That's called a subtle invitation. Ibrahim said this polite and kind statement to his guests. And surely this ayah indicates proper manners for honoring guests. So when he questioned that, he realized that they were not eating, right? And he asked the question, why is it you're not eating? I mean, he felt strange that anyone would refuse such a delicious calf, and they are not touching it also. So he realized that and he asked them. This statement is similar to one of us saying to a guest, would you be kind and generous to do such and such? So again, the Mufassirin saw it as not a question, but as an honorable way of asking the guest to eat. Would you have some food? Would you eat it? That's what it means. Qala ala ta'kulun. He asked this question after he saw that their hands did not touch the food and it looked as if they would not eat the meal that had been provided. So, fa'awjasa, then he was apprehensive. Fa is then awjasa, he was apprehensive or become frightened, fearful, in fact. Minhum of them, khifatan, a fear. Qalu, they said, la takhaf, don't fear. Let's fi'l amr there. You can see that la takhaf, don't fear. Wa basharuhu, and they gave him news. Wise and basharu, they gave news. Who is him? So they gave him news. Bi ghulamin alim, of a knowledgeable son. Ghulam is small young man. Alim is knowledgeable. So he conceived in his mind a fear on account of them. They said, fear not, and they gave him the good news of a boy possessing knowledge. So فَأَوْجَسَ مِنْهُمْ خِيفَةً قَالُوا لَا تَخَفْ وَبَشَّرُوهُ بِغُلَامٍ عَلِيمٍ. فَأَوْجَسَ مِنْهُ خِيفَةً. So after he saw that they were not eating, he had some fears of them. Who are they? Why aren't they not eating? These are questions that people would ask in themselves when presented with such a scenario or such a situation. This is either because a stranger who refuses to eat his host food appears treacherous and causes an element of apprehension. All right, this is the custom of the Arabs also, that if your guests are not eating your food, it means your guest does not want any hospitality, any kindness from you, because the guest is up to no good. Right? A guest who's up to no good would not want to receive good from the person whom he wished to harm. And that's the way it was in the olden days. Or because he noticed something odd about them. So either he's worried of them, or there's something strange about them that caused him to fear them. When they did not stretch out their hands for food, the Prophet Ibrahim became afraid in his heart. His reason for this fear could be that in tribal life, the strangers going to a house and avoiding food used to be an indication that they had come with an evil intention. The reason actually came from there. The reason. All right. So if you explain that, so it's being explained again. But most probably when they refrained from the food, the Prophet Ibrahim realized that they were angels who had come in human guise. And since the angels came in human guise only on extraordinary occasions, he became afraid that they must have come in that guise on some dreadful mission. All right, so again here we have two opinions of the word fear. The first word fear was because of the traditional custom of guests not eating food because they have some bad idea or bad aim. It came with a bad intention. But the other reason given here, a probable reason is that being a prophet, he realized that they were angels. So he could sense that they were angels. And he knew that angels do not come for no good reason. Must be some very terrible mission. So that makes him fearful. قالوا لا تخف. They said, don't be afraid. His hesitancy was detected by the angels and they assured him to remain calm and not be afraid. So he realized, the angels realized that he was having some kind of fear of them. And so they told him not to be afraid. وَبَشَّرُوهُ بِغُلَامٍ عَلِيمٍ. And they gave good news. So this one is no more conversation. No more conversation. But Allah narrating that they gave him the news of a son, a knowledgeable son. وَبَشَّرُوهُ بِغُلَامٍ عَلِيمٍ. To comfort him further, they gave him good news of a knowledgeable son. All right. This was great news, for it was not merely news of a son, but a news of a knowledgeable son. Hidden in this verse are the good news, a glad tidings that the son would be a prophet. It's understood. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless anyone with a knowledgeable son, the knowledge is considered as the knowledge of Allah subhanahu, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly. So here we do understand that his son was going to be a prophet of Allah. After receiving this news, Ibrahim alayhi salam felt assured regarding his own self. However, he set a question in mind as regards the campaign at hand of the angels. So we can see that, yeah, okay, fine, he came to bring news of a son to be born, but bringing news of a son to be born, 3 angels coming down to give that kind of good news, something else is there, definitely. Can't be just to give him good news of having a son. But of course, the angels, as mentioned, he believed that the angels had some other agenda, not only about giving him news of a good son. فَأَقْبَلَتِ. Let's say from the word qabala. Qabala has the meaning of to turn around. Cost, the T at the end tells us it's a female. So the female here turned. Who is the female? Imra'atuhu. Imra'atu, wife, who is his wife. So his wife actually turned up. Then turn up the wife. فَأَقْبَلَتِ imra'atuhu, his wife. Fi sarratin, in a loud voice. Sarrah is a shout kind of thing. Fasakkat, fa is then, sakkat, right? Again, female as a ta at the end, and then she struck. So sakkat, sakka means to strike. Fasakkat, wajhaha, her face. Wajah is face, ha is her face. Waqalat, and she said, all this female, Ajuzun aqim. Ajuz, old. Aqim, barren. A barren old woman. Ajuzun aqim. And we can see that the words here are not female words. So it's understood there are some words which have a male appearance but actually are female words. Right? Woman. Ajuz is a woman. Barren is aqim. Then his wife came up in great grief. We're going to discuss this word great grief, right? Because you can see the translations in a loud voice. And she struck her face, she said that, and said, an old barren woman. So she turned up, came up in great grief. Turn up and came up can be quite different. Never mind. فَأَقْبَلَتِ امْرَأَتُهُ فِي صَرَّةٍ فَصَكَّتْ وجهها وقالت عجوز عقيم. So as we say فأقبلت, you can see 2 different translations. One says then in grief, the other one says then a loud shout, right, from his wife. Fi sarrah. Eh? The wife turned up in a loud voice. That's what it was. Sarra is a loud voice. Let's look at different translations and we see why this word can be quite difficult. And his wife approached with a cry of alarm, right? And the other one says, and then his wife came forward, making moan. So even worse than alarm. But his wife came forward, laughing aloud. Really, really strange translation, very different from the third. Number two, his wife came forward, crying and beating her face. A very, very, very strange translation again. I mean, it is very picturesque. It shows her crying and beating her face, that kind of thing. Moses and the wife came forward with a loud voice. The word fi sarratin, all right, this is the explanation of a scholar, refers to the fact that she came forward in a state of astonishment and wonder. That is possible because they told her she's going to have a child, right? Crying and beating, crying would show sadness, loud voice doesn't, loud voice, because when you ask astonish or wonder, say, what do you mean? That kind of thing, you see. And a cry of alarm, all right. Making moan, that's even difficult. Laughing loudly, well, we can't see that. All right, so we have, this is an Arabic idiom, sarral farasu udunay, which means that the horse raised his ears. Right, because it's loud. Sarral farasu udunay. From this very idiom has sprung another idiom, fi sarrah, which is used to express surprise and incredulity. So here we are seeing a translator who knows some of the idioms of the Arabic world, right? And translated according to the fact that it's an idiom, not a direct translation of the word fi sarrah, sarratin. Fasakkat wajhaha, then she beat her face. This was referred to the fact that she struck her forehead. This is a very typical way adopted by women to express wonder. This utter surprise is often shown by saying something while striking their forehead. So that's what it is a forehead, but not the whole of the face. It's just, oh my God, are you sure? That kind of, most probably sounds like that. Not like beating yourself out of grief, so you can see translations can be quite worrying, differently interpreted by the receiver of the translation. In these two words, the Quran is put in a complete state of astonishment. So Allah described how surprised she was by these two terms that I use, right? Sarrah and socket. وقالت عجوز عقيم, and she said, an old barren woman, how? There was some narration says that she's about 90 and Nabi Ibrahim was about 95 at that time. Like, imagine giving birth at the age of 90 and she was all these years no child at all. So she says, it's really, really surprising. This is amazing. I'm an old barren woman. So this statement explained her surprise. How can she, an old barren woman? قالوا, they said, كذلك, like that. This كذا, it's not كذلك. Usually it's كذلك, but now it's كذلك, referring to a woman. Like that, a woman. See, but we don't see here, right? Like ka, it's like dalika, right? What's for you, old woman? That's for you. There's a direct, that is the long translation. Normally it's just that, right? That for you, dalika, right? Qala said, Rabbuka, your Rabb, Rabbuki. Said Rabbuki, again referring to the woman because it's female. Rabbu is the one who said, Qala Rabbuki. Innahu, surely he, huwa he, Hakimul Alim, all wise, all know. Innahu huwal Hakimul Alim. They said, that says your Rabb, surely he is the wise, the know. Of course, when you look at translation, there is no indication that the angels were speaking to the wife of Ibrahim alayhi salam. But from the Arabic, we can tell because the key is woman. Key is woman, not car, but key. قالوا كذلك قال ربك قالوا كذلك قال ربك. The angels replied that she should rest assured, but thus has her Rabb said so. That's what your Rabb says. It says like that. It is my lady. That's what your Rabb has said. So we are just conveying the message of your Rabb. When he has made something, it shall naturally be fulfilled. It means Allah has said something, definitely is going to happen. Neither her state of being a barren old lady will be any cause of hindrance, nor her husband's old age. Right? So whatever Allah wish will happen, as Allah has said in the Quran, in Surah Yasin, innama amruhu idha arada shay'an, only that when he wishes a thing, idha arada shay'an, ayyakula lahu, then he says to him, kun fayakun, be, then it becomes. Innahu huwal hakimul alim. And he mentioned two of the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Surely he, that statement in itself is an emphasis. Surely it's an emphasis. He, and a he again, right? To show this is your God. He, definitely he is all wise and all knowing. Hakimun alim. Out of his wisdom, he has made a decision to give you a child. And he knows what's for the future. He knows why this child is necessary for Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. As we are aware from Nabi, this is of course Nabi Ishaq. This is Nabi Ishaq because we are talking of Siti Sarah, the wife of Nabi Ibrahim, not Siti Hajar, the mother of Ismail alayhi salam. Because Ismail was born quite early in the life of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. And here Ishaq is born later on in his old age. Familiar habits limit our imagination and understanding. For us who are confined by physical rules, physical laws, this is just impossible. That is why she was surprised. Me? What? Me? An old barren woman? So the angels come back to remind her that she has a Rabb. And her Rabb is her creator. And the Rabb can do whatever he wants to do. That is why the angel said, that's it. Just like that is for you. Like, it is for you, has been said, has been decided by your Rabb. So we can't understand that, but that is a reality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why we are reminded that Allah is all wise and all knowing. He will do whatever he wants to do via his wisdom and his knowledge. Therefore, we are surprised when we see something running counter to what is familiar. Yet Allah's will is free, unrestricted by anything that may be familiar to man in his small world. He creates whatever he wills without limitation, out of his wisdom and knowledge. Allah is all wise, and all his actions is via his wisdom and knowledge. Though through Ibrahim came the Bani Israel. Through Ibrahim came the Bani Israel. Via, of course, Ishaq alayhi salam. This is definitely part of his wise plans. Allah knows very well why he is doing all these things. All right, let's recite the story of Nabi Ibrahim. هل أتاك حديث ضيف إبراهيم المكرمين إذ دخلوا عليه فقالوا سلاما قال سلام قوم منكرون فراغ إلى أهله فجاء بعجل سمين فقربه إليهم قال ألا تأكلون فأوجس منهم خيفة قالوا لا تخف وبشروه بغلام عليم فأقبلت امرأته في صرة فصكت وجهها وقالت عجوز عقيم قالوا كذلك قال ربك إنه هو الحكيم العليم. On some words, right? That's the first part of the story of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. Khatabukum, khatab is khataba, khutbah, khataba means a matter, a thing to be mentioned. Kum is your matter. Musawwamatun, and musawwamatun actually comes from the word ism, name, right? Of course, an ism itself, musawwamatan, musawwamatan is a rafa here. It means to be marked, to be named, to be branded. Musawwamatan. Khatabukum musawwamatan. All right, these are two words that we have. Qala, he said. Fama, then what's? Khatabukum, your affair. Then what's it that you're here? Ayyuhal mursalun. Ayyuha is all mursalun, messengers. So you call on them as messengers from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, Qala fama khatabukum ayyuhal mursalun. What is your affair? Then all messengers. All right, now Nabi Ibrahim in this particular narration, Nabi Ibrahim was not seen to be surprised, right, by the news that the angels brought. Somehow, Wallahu alam, he's a man more composed and doesn't really show his emotions, or as a prophet, he was always receptive of what came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Maybe the wife, not that she's not receptive, she's also a very religious woman, it's more of a shock. Right? Imagine yourself at 90 being told that you're pregnant. Qala fama khatabukum ayyuhal mursalun. So Ibrahim alayhi salam straight away knew for sure that that's not the only reason they appear at his door. There's other reasons. So he said, then what is your matter here? All of you, all of you. Oh, mursalun. So you are here being sent as messengers. There must be something more to it than just telling me I'm going to have a son. So when Ibrahim alayhi salam realized who his guests were, he asked them about the mission they had been sent to accomplish. He posed this question to them because, as indicated earlier, he was aware of the fact that when angels come in this manner, they have some big mission before them. So as mentioned, that he had this fear because he sort of, from this when they didn't eat, he realized that there is something about them, and he as mentioned, two opinions, right? That he he sort of guessed that they were angels. If the issue was mere communication of glad tidings of a son, it would not have required this elaborate arrangement. Why 3 angels, right? To come, 1 angel would be enough, lah. Or just a message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He had dreams before, right? He had dreams of when he was in his younger days with Nabi Ismail alayhi salam. He had dreams of having to slaughter Nabi Ibrahim Nabi Ismail alayhi salam. So it's not going to be a problem for him. The word khatabun is used only for some big and important matter. So you have definitely a very, very important thing to do here. Since Ibrahim alayhi salam already had some fear regarding the mission of Lut alayhi salam, and the people of Lut alayhi salam, he wanted to find out if this was their mission. Of course, he sort of suspect that their real mission was to the people of Nabi Lut alayhi salam, because Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, Nabi Lut alayhi salam was the cousin of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, and definitely Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam was aware of, of the struggles and challenges that Nabi Lut is faced with, having to deal with the homosexuals of his time. In particular, was very concerned about what would happen to Lut alayhi salam, his family, and his companions. All right, Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam came after Nabi Nuh alayhi salam. Right, which means he is aware there are punishments. Nabi Ibrahim himself, we are aware that there was no severe punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on his people. Right, punishments, if there were, according to some narrations, on Nimrod, the king that opposed him, right, in his young age. Maybe that's more individualized rather than a very big punishment on a nation like Nabi Nuh alayhi salam. We have the flood, right? And then again, Nabi Nuh was saved. So there is a precedence already that the believers are saved, right? Whenever there was a punishment on the wayward or the arrogant people who doesn't want to accept the message of the prophets. So here comes Lut, and he knows there is going to be punishment on the people of Lut. So he's rather concerned how Lut is going to escape that punishment. Thus, at another instance, in the Quran, it is stated that when it became evident to Ibrahim alayhi salam that the decision had been made to punish the people of Lut alayhi salam, he argued with Allah about the believers among them. I won't want to use the word argue with Allah. He sort of, wants to know more, felt that there must be some way in which Allah has planned for the people of Lut alayhi salam. Allah has praised his argument and has presented it as a testimony of the sympathy and concern found in him. So this is another part of the Quran where Allah actually mentioned him talking to the angels, trying to prove to the fact that, there are good people among Nabi Lut's people. And this also showed his great concern for his cousin or niece, nephew. قالوا إنا أرسلنا إلى قوم مجرمين. So in response to Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, they said, Inna, surely we, so there's a na at the end there, surely we, ursilna, this is passive, we were sent, right? Ursilna, we were sent, ila, to qawmim mujrimin, a guilty people. Right? People, guilty. Guilty people. People, kaum is people. Mujrim is guilty. And mujrimin, of course, plural. Qalu, they said, surely we are sent to a guilty people. There's an here because it's a people. It's a group of people. Group. Although it's a lot of people, right? But you use the word قالوا إنا أرسلنا إلى قوم مجرمين. So from what they said, surely we emphasized here, right? Surely we are sent. So it is not of our own will. It is not that we do it without being instructed. It is an instruction. Allah sent us to a people. Why are we sent to the people? Because they are mujrims. Mujrims are people who defy the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the instructions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The angels replied that they had been sent to a nation of sinners. Okay, it seems that they did not name the people of Lut. Yeah, there was no reference to the people of Lut. So somehow Nabi Ibrahim knew who these people were. Right, because Nabi Ibrahim lived quite not very far from Nabi Lut alayhi salam. It becomes evident to Ibrahim alayhi salam that the people of Lut alayhi salam had become worthy of punishment or deserving. The worthy sounds very, very, very positive. Deserving of punishment, but the Quran, on account of eloquence, had suppressed their name and only referred to them as a nation of sinners. So you are supposed to guess. Of course, it's understood Nabi Ibrahim knew who they were, who the angels were referring to. The reason is that it becomes evident that the punishment with which the nation of Lut faced was because of their own deeds. This is a central theme of the surah as well. So the surah is about, the theme of the surah is about punishing people who disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is being highlighted, instead of saying the people of Lut, Qawmi Lut, right? It is straight away identifying the reason why they are being punished is because they disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are sinners. They are mujrims. Mujrims are criminals. Criminals are people who disregard laws and just violate laws and commit crime. It's meaning of criminals. Linur sila, so that, right, we are sent, we were sent alaihim on them. Hijaratun, so we sent, no is, Rasala is, we sent, the no is a we is referring to the angel here. So we sent nur sila alaihim on them, hijaratan, stones, min tin, of clay, that we may send down upon them stone of clay, hijarah, stones of clay. Hajar is one, many is hijar of clay, so that we are to send on them stones of clay. Linursila alayhim hijaratam min tin. Alayhim is put forward to show that specifically for them, especially for them, stones will be sent on them. Linursila alayhim hijaratam min tin. Linursila, so that we were to send on them stones made of clay. The angels express in these verses the purpose of their advent, why they are sent, to shower stones on the sinners. The preposition ala here is testimony to the fact that such will be this onslaught, that it will be completely routed, that means they will be completely destroyed. Stones are thrown onto them, that's it, they will be gone. The word hijaratam min tin, stones of clay, refer to the pebbles, which become stones of mud. Right? So it is hard. You know, clay, one thing about clay, when it's with water, you can make it soft. But once you make it the pottery, can you imagine that kind of stone that's hard? It's really, really painful if it strikes you, because dried clay is really, really hard. Musawwamatan, marked inda rabbika, from your Rabb. Lil musrifin, lil, for musrifin, those who transgress, people who transgress, the transgressors. Send forth from your Rabb for the extravagant. I don't like the word extravagant actually as a translation of musrifin. Musrifin means those who have gone beyond bounds to transgress laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, extravagant means that you have been doing more, a lot, but extravagant has a different meaning sometimes in English. So transgressors are much more appropriate, apt here, rather than extravagant. Extravagant always give you the idea of people who spend a lot. But this one is that they have just gone beyond bounds, musrifin. So we always dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya muqallibal qulub, thabbit qulubana. Ya musarrifal qulub, sarrif qulubana ala ta'atika. Oh, the one who can change the hearts, musarrifal qulub, then keep firm my heart on your obedience. And the word sarafa is to be able to move around, to do a lot of things. So it has a few meanings in that sense. Musawwamatan inda rabbika lil musrifin. All right. Musawwamah. The angels say these stones are not ordinary stones. These stones have got their names on it. And who are the one who give the names on the stone? Allah himself put the names on the stone. It shows that Allah is really angry with them for their behavior. Of course, the behavior is not mentioned here. The only mention that was made by the angels is that they disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, we are aware these are the people of Lut who are the homosexuals. So homosexuality definitely is a sin in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a very grave sin for the fact that Allah is going to pelt every single one of them with stones made of clay. Saying pebbles doesn't sound so serious because pebbles are small, small, tiny stones, right? Allah didn't say pebbles, I say hijar. Hijar means stones. Stones are marked stones. So there's name written on them, right? They are specifically targeted, right? Allah knows that person, that's his name. Target him, attack, and everything, and he dies on the spot, right? Because they're so evil and so bad to do such a thing. And in other parts of the Quran, Allah described the sin as really serious. Musawwamatan inda rabbika lil musrifin, right? For those who have transgressed, they have really when, of course, they have transgressed all bounds or limits set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the word musawwamatan means marked. In other words, as per the scheme of Allah, these stones had been marked for the purpose of being used solely for the mischievous elements of the people of Lut alayhi salam. So they were again targeted. They bear divinely marked signs showing that they have a specific purpose and that no other person should touch them. Al-Musrifin refers to the miscreants among the nations of Lut alayhi salam, the ones who exceed the bounds set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as mentioned. You know, Allah, of course, has created men and women, and they have a function on earth, right, to reproduce, and they are supposed to be made into husbands and wives and not allowed to exceed bounds by men and men, women and women. It has been used in the Quran for both small and big excesses, the word musrifin. So here it refers to the indecent behavior of the nation of Lot, alayhi salam, Lut, with which it was afflicted as a nation. All of them were bad. We saw how they were described. A nation which openly, blatantly violates the bounds set by Allah faces any of the elements which have been put to their service by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He unleashes these elements which then rout and ravage these people because of their rebelliousness. So yes, here is reference to the elements here would be the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this particular sense, it is a stone. The stones which are marked with their names, right, will be used to destroy them because they have been disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Interestingly, the stones are being used for the fact that the sexual sins, especially fornication, not fornication, adultery, the punishment for adultery is to be stoned to death, right? So here we have an example of sexual indecencies or sexual crime, right, where they're stoned, very particularly with their names there. فَأَخْرَجْنَا مَنْ كَانَ فِيهَا مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Then أَخْرَجْنَا, we brought out, man who, kana was, fiha in it, minal mu'minin, of the believers. Right? The angels tell Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, we will bring them out. Those who believe in Allah will not be punished. They will not be stoned because, of course, they are good people. Their names shouldn't be marked on the stone. The stones are marked with the names of the criminals. فَأَخْرَجْنَا مَنْ كَانَ فِيهَا مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. So the believers will be brought out from the place, a fiha of it, the place was. When decisive punishment is meted out to a nation to which the truth has been conclusively been delivered by a messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who have professed faith in the messenger before the advent of this punishment are saved. We have seen this in many, many instances of the stories of the prophets of Allah, that those who follow the prophets of Allah, they will be saved, right, from the punishment because they believe in the prophet of Allah. We are aware that punishment only occur when the prophets of Allah has tried their very best to stop the sin that's been committed, and they were fought against. And we saw the people of Nabi Lut alayhi salam denouncing Nabi Lut alayhi salam as people of truth. We don't like people, clean people. We like, we don't like people who like to purify themselves. That's what they say. This established practice of Allah has been explained in the accounts of the messengers. About the people of Lot, it is mentioned at one instance that he and his family and his followers were directed to leave the place this time for punishment before dawn and live it in a manner that they should not even look back. So this is another parts of the Quran where they were told, and more elaborate stories will come when we have done this. We have done story of Nabi Hud alayhi salam in the Surah Hud, where a more detailed description was made when when angels actually visited the Nabi Lut alayhi salam, and Allah showed how Nabi Lut was very, very worried for them because his wife has informed the evil ones in his town about the presence of the handsome man. So they were all rushing to his house to get a hold of these three handsome men. And he was really, really, really worried, very scared, until finally the angels announced to him or informed him of who they were. So that relieves him a bit. Okay, he was relieved by that, not a bit. He was relieved by that, and he was instructed to leave the place before dawn. Sahur. The word was used was sahur, and before dawn. Sahur. فَمَا وَجَدْنَا فِيهَا غَيْرَ بَيْتٍ مِّنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Fama, then not wajadna, we found in it is a town, ghaira, other than a house, baitin, a house. Ghaira is huruf jar, so bait is jar state. Minal muslimin, of those who submit, Muslims. But we do not find therein except, save means except, a single house of those who submitted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The word is Muslims. I'm going to use the word those who submit here rather than translating it as Muslims. Fama wajadna, wajada is a root word. And it's not wow, it's not an N here, but root word wajada, and this is fi'il madi. Fama wajadna fiha ghayra baytim minal muslimin. Allah says that not we found in it we only found a single house, not we found in it other than a single house of believers. Everybody there are evil. That is the reality of Nabi Lut's work. They don't want to listen to him. Either they are people who did it, or people who supported the action, like his wife. His wife didn't do it, right, because they are homosexuals, where we understand it is between men and men. And his wife was encouraging them on by informing them of the presence of the three handsome men who visited Nabi Lut alayhi salam. Of course, they were the angels. Among the whole nation and the entire land, there was only one house that shone with the light of the faith and Islam. And it was no other but the house of Prophet Lut alayhi salam. So they only find one house with people who are believers, who are Muslims. The rest of the entire nation was sunk deep in sin and wickedness, and his whole country was brimming over with filth and immorality. Therefore, Allah rescued the people of that one house and then sent down the torment on the land, which did not spare any one of the wicked people. By this special reference of the Quran to this lack of existence of believers among the nation of Lut, it becomes evident that the Almighty does not send his decisive punishment on a nation unless the whole of the nation had become morally corrupt. By saying only one house, it shows that the whole town is bad, evil. Only one house, there are good people inside. Muslims, those who submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The rest of them are corrupt. So this one indicates that Allah only sends punishment when the nation is completely corrupt. Believers either become non-existent among it or are in such small numbers that they can be regarded as virtually non-existent. The discussion of Ibrahim salam with Allah as recorded in the Quran also points to this, and the attributes of mercy and justice of Allah also entail it. So Ibrahim was concerned for this group of believers, and this statement in itself shows the mercy and justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in not punishing the people. Here, a special aspect needs to be considered. The above verse mentions the word mu'min, and the current one mentions the word Muslim. Why? Why the first verse say mu'min and the second verse say Muslim? What is the difference? Is there any difference between mu'min and Muslim? Why in the first verse mu'min and the second verse Muslim? The reason for this is that the previous verse mentions the practice of Allah regarding salvation from divine punishment, and as per this practice, only true believers are protected from such punishment. Right? Unless you are true believers, then you would be protected from such punishment. So the first verse was, the previous verse was a verse referring to the punishment. So that is why Allah mentioned mu'min. In this verse, it is stated that except for one family, there was no other Muslim family in that area. The word Muslim used for this family has a lot of scope in it. It can cover the weak in faith and the strong in faith, as well as the mature and the immature. Now, a people in the household, all of them can be Muslims, people who submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but whether they are strong in their faith or not, that is a question in itself, because not every Muslim is a mu'min. So with reference to those people in the house of Nabi Lut alayhi salam, right, they might submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they might be sinning also. And so they are not mu'min. So much so, in the apparent sense, even the wife of the Prophet Lut alayhi salam was included in it, but was excluded from it when the final time arrived. Right? So because she lives in the house of Nabi Lut alayhi salam, so she's considered as those who submit. Most probably she did submit, believing in Allah and such. But then again, she has this a soft spot, so-called soft spot, for her people, and she actually encouraged them to do evil. So in that sense, people who encourage evil despite being Muslims can also be punished. In this verse, three important themes have been discussed. That Allah's law of retribution does not decree the total destruction of a nation as long as there remains a considerable element of good in it. Right? As mentioned, they are asked to leave the place before it was destroyed. As against the majority of the bad people, if it still contains a small element of those who continue trying to invite others to the right way, Allah gives it an opportunity to work and goes on increasing the respite of the nation, which is not yet wholly devoid of goodness. So there's still hope, right? The work is still being done. There's still hope that the people would become good people by the work of the prophets of Allah. But in case there remains no element of goodness at all in the nation, Allah's law is that He somehow rescues by His power and grace some of the good people who might have become weary and helpless, fighting evil in its settlements, and deals with the rest as every sensible master would deal with this rotten fruit. That means if you are a seller and you've got fruits to sell, you see some rotten fruits, you would just get rid of it, throw it away, because it's rotten. So these people are considered as rotten people in that sense, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove the good ones, right, and leave the rotten ones to rot. Second, that Muslim is not the name only of the people who are the followers of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but all the prophets before him and their followers were all Muslims. And so we cannot say we are Muslims, we are the only Muslims, because anybody who follows the Prophet are also called Muslims. In the Quran, it's mentioned so many times. The religions were not mutually exclusive, that one might be the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam, another of Musa alayhi salam, and still another of Isa alayhi salam, but they all were Muslims, and their religion was this same Islam. We all submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? But we are Muslims also, but we are considered as the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is the nation of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The truth has been explained at several places in the Quran, and there is no room for ambiguity in this regard, that all of them, right, have the same religion, that a religion is submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Allah mentioned that today I perfected the religion with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Third one, the word mu'min and Muslim have been used as synonyms in this verse. Right, somehow in this verse is read with verse 14 of Al-Hujurat, which says, the dwellers of the desert say, we believe. Say, you do not believe, but you say, we submit. And faith has not yet entered into your hearts. And if you obey Allah and His Messenger, He will not diminish aught of your deeds. Surely Allah is forgiving and merciful. So this proves that Muslim and Mu'min are two different groups of people. When you convert to Islam, when you say your Shahada, you are a Muslim. You are not yet a Mu'min. You submit to the fact that Allah is God and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a messenger of God. But the faith in itself has to be worked on. You have to be praying and fasting and doing all the various instructions, and then slowly that faith of the desire to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His messenger, becomes stronger in you. And Allah is forgiving and merciful. Whatever you do, of course, just a little bit of a mention of this verse, that whatever your action is, Allah will reward you, even if your actions are not up to standard, because Allah is merciful. So the error of thinking of those people becomes obvious who regard Mu'min and Muslim as two independent terms of the Quran, which have been used in one and the same meaning everywhere. And Muslim is necessarily used for the person who might have entered the fold of Islam by professing the faith only verbally without true faith. All right, so people might not understand the use of Mu'min and Muslim here, right? But it is definitely clear that they are different, right? We regard Mu'min and Muslim as two independent terms of the Quran, which had been used in one and the same meaning everywhere. So these two terms, some people think they are the same, but it's not the same, right? Because a Muslim is necessarily used for the person who have entered the fold of Islam by professing the faith only verbally without true faith. Right? وَتَرَكْنَا فِيهَا آيَةً لِلَّذِينَ يَخَافُونَ الْعَذَابَ الْأَلِيمِ. And we left. Taraka is to leave, na is to left, past tense, fi'il madi here. Fiha, in it, in the town. Ayatan, a sign. Lilladhina, for those. Yakhafuna, they fear. Khawf, and the ya waw nun fi'il mudari, rafa state. Yakhafuna, they fear. Adhab al-alim, adhab is punishment, alim is painful, a painful punishment. And we left therein a sign for those who fear the painful punishment. وَتَرَكْنَا فِيهَا آيَةً لِلَّذِينَ يَخَافُونَ الْعَذَابَ الْأَلِيمِ. And Allah says, we left in it referring to the town, a sign for those people who fear the terrible punishment. You know there will be a punishment if you disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you see for yourself this punishment that was meted on the people of Lut alayhi salam. This refers to the fact that Almighty left an obvious and exemplary sign in the city of the nation of Lut, people who want to witness the signs of wrath of Allah in this earth and want to seek a lesson from it. So those who passes by the dwellings of Lut, they are aware of the punishments that were on Lut. We are aware that the stories, even without the Quran, the people of Quraysh have heard these stories because these stories are passed on and on and on and on from generations. That is why the people of Quraysh say, ancient stories. They just brush it off as ancient stories. So Allah is highlighting to them, if you really have fear of punishment, then you would learn lessons from what happened to Lut. And this, the people of Lut, not Lut, the people of Lut. Sorry. As mentioned in verse 20, and in the earth and yourselves also are signs for those who have conviction. That means here, right, this presents a testimony of what is claimed in verse 20. Verse 20 tells us there are signs for us. So this verse tells us the signs are there, and that is in the life of the people, in the punishment on the people of Nabi Lut. Sodom and Gomorrah, which were the settlements of the nation of Lut, were situated on the route between Hijaz and Syria. So the Arabs who traveled up north to Syria to buy goods to sell in their hometown, right, will pass by the settlements of Lut and will realize what happened to the people of Lut. Trade caravans of the Quraysh often pass on this route. Despite witnessing the signs and remnants, they are still rejecting the warnings of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Thus, it only means that these people will profess faith when the promised calamity will await them. That means these people, they are not fearful of the punishment. That means they will only say we believe when the punishment comes to them. Here, a brief explanation of the nature of the pebble hurling storm referred to in verse 33 is in order. So there's a punishment on them. This will elucidate the relationship between the old swan at the beginning of the surah by dust-laden wind and striped clouds, and between this tale becomes evident. That means the sky brings in the punishment on the people. The sky comes in the form of the strong wind that brings the pebbles to destroy them, and the clouds, right, that Allah talks about. All right. Farahi says, the Almighty unleashed a dust-laden storm, this is a scholar, on the people of Lut, which finally took the shape of a stone-hurling wind. This at first rained down pebbles and stones on them, and later, when the storm picked up, it destroyed all the houses. While referring to the people of Lut, it is stated, some we sent down a violent stone-hurling wind. Another instant, the words used about them, we raised the city to the ground and let loose a shower of clay stones upon them. So they were punished. So such was the nature of the strong wind that the houses and roofs were raised to ground, and the pebbles and stones completely covered them. Another place, the stones are, the words are, and overthrew the overthrown cities. Thus there covered them that which covered them. The stones covered them up. There are definitely lessons for future generations. All right, let's recite. قال فما خطبكم أيها المرسلون قالوا إنا أرسلنا إلى قوم مجرمين لنرسل عليهم حجارة من طين مسومة عند ربك للمسرفين فأخرجنا من كان فيها من المؤمنين فما وجدنا فيها غير بيت من المسلمين وتركنا فيها آية للذين يخافون العذاب الأليم. All right, Alhamdulillah. We did quite a bit today. Stories very fast actually compared to informations, hardcore, hard informations. Allahumma arhamna bil Quran waj'alhu lana imaman wa nuran wa hudan wa rahmah. Allahumma dhakkirna minhu ma nasina وعلمنا منه ما جهلنا وارزقنا تلاوته آناء الليل وأطراف النهار واجعله لنا حجة يا رب العالمين. اللهم استودعك ما علمتني فردده إلي وقت حاجتي إليه فلا تنسينيه يا رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ربنا انفعنا بما علمتنا ربي علمنا الذي ينفعنا ربي فقهنا وفقه أهلنا وقرابات لنا في ديننا مع أهل القتر أنثى وذكر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلى الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته